Put, is your
This meeting
video
is being
on?
recorded.
Excellent, thank you. Good evening. Call to order this special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Subcommission on, Subcommittee on Regulation Rewrites. It is Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 at 7 p.m., meeting via Zoom. We will begin with a roll call. I'm just going to go through the participant list. Charlene?
I'm here.
Missy?
Missy DeRosa's here.
Brian?
I'm here.
John Lenke?
John B. Lanky's here.
Mike Krogle?
Mike Krogle present.
John Rice?
John Rice here.
And Joseph Purdy Brown is present. Okay, so a reminder to the commissioners and to everyone who is here in this meeting, we will be recording this meeting. The way we will operate is we will follow the discussion guide, which has been shared with the commission by the planner, and which is, excuse me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe is available on the town's website. Tira, is that correct?
I did post it for the public as well.
Thank you. Excuse me. And what we will do is we will follow along with that that discussion guide item by item. For each item, we will go through, and if any commissioner wants to speak to that comment or share their thought on that comment, we will give them the opportunity to do so. And we may ask if there's someone here who has made that comment that the commission would like more information about, we can ask them at that time. Are there any questions about that method of proceeding from the commission?
No, are they gonna keep like it muted, everybody muted, and then when you talk, turn it on? Or like I hear
Yeah,
doorbells and...
That's right, Charlene. I'm going to keep everybody muted except the commissioners. I'm actually going to disable chat right now as well, although, there we go. So I will unmute the individual non-commissioner participants as their comments come up so that you can ask them directly. So that should eliminate at least some of the background noise.
Thank you.
But Missy, you can unmute yourself if you want, unless you've got a lot of background there.
I don't have much background at all. No.
Yeah, certainly if
Okie dokie.
a member of the commission does find themselves with a lot of background noise, feel free to mute and unmute yourself.
Tara, this is Cindy. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, Cindy, we can.
You muted me. Why did you mute me?
Oh.
Oh no, that's
I
the
didn't-
video.
I didn't mute you.
apologize. I apologize. This is the video. I don't have a video.
You know, what do you need?
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, excellent. So then we will turn to the discussion guide. And the first item comes from the table of contents. And there are some suggestions there regarding the general formatting from Marla and Cindy. Is there anyone in the commission who would like to address? I'm sorry, actually, so some new members have joined us. Mr. Werge, hello.
Say hello.
Come on. Bob Werge is present.
With his very underpaid assistant, I think.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so I believe that's the, I'm not missing any other commissioners since the roll call.
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Great, excellent. So we begin with the first item, which is the question about the general formatting. Does any commissioner wish to speak on what we see there? We have comments from Marla, Cindy, and Tira.
I took it. I checked out Woodstock's and Putnam's formatting. I mean, ours looks to be in line. I wasn't going through it and making sure that everything said A, B, and then 1, 2, 3 either. I don't know if that's why this came up, that it was inconsistent formatting.
Yeah, that is essentially her contention, is that there are places where just the outline format itself, the numbering, lettering, may have been inconsistent. She has recommended, she being Marla, has recommended that we, request, I presume that this would come out of a legal office, a formatting specialist look at it. If you guys want to do it, it's fine. Obviously, there would be an expense to it, which is why I recommend a voice vote here. Otherwise, I can just go through it again and double check it. I don't really think the formatting is very far off, although I think there probably are sections where it is probably inconsistent here and there.
Did you ask Halloran and Sage?
Not
Or
yet.
did they? Okay.
They've
I'm
seen this.
wondering-
Rich Roberts has seen the same discussion guide. He did not provide any additional comments prior to tonight.
Okay.
I'm wondering if it's a question of just a general editor versus a legal
Legal.
editor. I don't know if we need to.
Yeah.
I think a general editor myself personally. This is Cindy.
Through,
Well, regardless, there's going to be an expense, so that's
Right.
why it would be a voice vote. And I would probably have to start with Halloran and Sage regardless for a recommendation, because I don't know where I would find an editor for this.
Was our other one edited?
Who knows? That was however many years ago, 8 years ago.
I mean,
Were you
Tara,
gonna
I'm happy to share the website I used for my dissertation.
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm thinking in terms of an editor, just someone, if we're just acting strictly for format, we're not asking them to change any language. We're not, it's just to make sure that the Roman numerals and the Arabic numerals and the capital letters and the lowercase letters.
Yeah, that is what Marla is suggesting.
Yeah. So if the commission wants to proceed with that, is that something the commission wants to move forward with the contracting of an editor? So
I think somebody's got to make a motion because
entertain
it's
a
a vote.
motion to do so if that's the.
Well, I have a question. I think
Yeah.
the wording in this type of regulations is different. And so I think that's where, I'm not a professional in that. Sometimes I read the wording, it's almost like, it can be confusing. I think the idea of this would make it less confusing. But I also think that when I was looking at some of the notes that, I think it's true. Some of the things have to get changed to where it doesn't bounce back on us later and go, well, this doesn't mean this, and what does that mean? And so, maybe having an editor, or like what you proposed, Joe, your dissertation website that you use, that might be enough. I'm not sure. So I can't motion on it because I don't really know enough about it. I'm nowhere near an editor.
Yeah, I think in terms of the language that we're looking at, any language is going to we're going to want counsel to look at language again to make sure that our language says what we want it to say.
Yep.
This is a much more basic sort of dotting your I's and crossing your T's type step.
So is that something
As I-
that somebody in the,
Sorry, Charlene. Sorry.
Go ahead,
Is that-
Charlene.
is that something that somebody in the town hall could do? She picked it up. Is that Like, does it have to be like shipped out and somebody else has to do 1.2. A, B? Like, if she's looking at that, can she do that for us, or is that like?
I can probably do it, Charlene. If I go through it once, only looking at formatting for consistency,
Mhm.
I can probably do it.
And maybe she could be the editor again and look at it and see if it's off.
And let's add Joe's website for that type of thing, that grammatical punctuation. No? I think doing both. I don't know.
What is it, Joe? Is it a wizard type website, or is it just a style guide?
No, it would be like it would be a way to find an editor. It's these websites that contract editors for you.
Mr. Wurge wants to speak, but he's on mute.
Yeah, Bob, go ahead. Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. Go ahead, Bob.
Didn't we pay NECOG to put this document together?
Yes.
This is no longer the NECOG document.
Yeah, the issue is that we've sliced and diced it pretty good since NECOG had their hands on it.
So you think it's our responsibility then?
I do. And to be honest, I mean, I think any of us are capable of doing it. I think the benefit of hiring an editor is I don't think it's going to be a large expense, because what we're asking them to do isn't going to take a lot of time, and generally these sort of editors would charge by the hour. And I think it's the sort of thing where when you're in it day after day, just having that one set of outside eyes. Yeah, Carolyn.
Okay.
Marla might know somebody who can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think
For a lot less than a professional company that you might have to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. So I think the finding someone might be secondary to authorizing the commission to make the expenditure if that's the way to go.
I'll make a motion that we get past number 1 because we'll be here till next week. So whatever the motion is, we have to do just to figure out 1s, 2s, 3s, and ABCs. That's the motion I'm making.
So make a motion for Marla to ask Marla to see if she can look at this.
Ask Mahler to ask
Bring
her
it
friend who the
And
friend
add
or
the-
somebody. Yeah.
How about a motion to seek a qualified document editor? How's that?
Thank you,
Sounds
Tara.
good.
I'll second it.
Darlene has made a motion to seek a qualified document editor, seconded by Missy DeRogers. Any discussion on the motion?
Joseph, John Rice.
Mr. Rice?
Just to let you know, we do have $1,500 for professional services in the budget.
Excellent. I
Look at that.
think $1,500 would get us an excellent document editor. probably 15 of them at least.
It'll be trimmed in gold.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any further discussion? Hearing none, it'll be a yes to authorize, no not to. Charlene?
Yes.
Charlene Langlois, yes. John
Sorry.
Rice?
John Rice, yes.
Missy?
Missy DeRogers, yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Brian Santos, yes. Bob?
Yes.
Bob Wurge, yes. John Lenke?
John B. Lanky, yes.
Mike?
Yes, Mike Krogel, yes.
Joseph Perotti Brown, yes. The motion passes.
It is done. Okay, so let's have slightly less discussion on the next item, if you please, but it is similar in nature.
Yeah, definitions at the beginning or definitions at the end. My only confusion was, I mean, I guess they are at the end, right? Is that the
In
end
our
of that?
draft, they are at the end. In the existing regulations, I believe they are at the beginning. I'm going to be frank. I believe that this comment represents a certain amount of status quo bias, It does not matter where you put them. But the point that Al made, and they're not online at home, so they can't join us tonight. The point that Al made was that he thinks people want to know what things mean before they go into a document. I would make a different point generally, which is that if I'm reading an academic text or something and I come across a word I don't know, I look for it in the glossary at the end. But does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. You guys just have to decide what you prefer. I'm giving you 2 minutes.
I prefer the end. Missy DeRogers.
Bob Warge, I prefer the end.
Charlene Langlois, the end.
John B.
You got to
Linky.
call on people. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Brian, have you weighed in?
No, I haven't, but I'm in for the end just because I don't want to get in a fight with anybody.
It might be okay. You're over there. I can't reach.
John Linky,
And,
Mike,
and,
John Rice.
Yeah, I can put it in the end. I don't think it makes a difference.
Yeah, I'm happy with them at the end as well.
Mm.
Great. We didn't
Very
even
good. Look at that. We made 2 decisions in 10 minutes.
Now, do we need to make a motion for that, or was this was good enough?
That was good enough.
I think that's perfectly fine.
Thank you.
Just
Just
recommend a voice vote.
Thanks for the yeah. I mean,
Oh, voice vote. Okay. Yep.
yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay, so
We document without motions necessarily. I think for something like the expenditure of money, I think that made sense, and maybe for some of the more controversial things, it'll make sense. But I think that's appropriate.
I just have, I have a question.
Yeah. Thank you, Charlie.
I know that Tara muted the so nobody could chat, but that could be 10,000 questions at the end and for us to go all the way back to the beginning. So is there a way that maybe we can get through like this section, open up the chat for like 3 or 4 minutes, see if they have anything. If not, close the chat and go on. Because at the end, when we think we're done and we open the chat, we could be here till 12 o'clock. So
no, Charlene, there's no general citizens comments item here.
okay.
The folks who are here, I mean, the public obviously can listen, but just like when we had these meetings previously, there was no citizens comments even when they were live.
Okay.
The people who have commented on the items in front of us, I specifically invited to come in. A couple of them are here. So I will unmute them when the items on which they have commented come up in case you want further clarification.
Perfect.
So this is designed to be more efficient.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. For example, we may have said, "Hey, like, Al Landry, can you answer? Give us a little bit more information about why you think this is important." That sort of thing.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Thank you. Thank you for raising the point, Charlene. I appreciate it.
All right, so everything from here on in is at least a little bit more substantive, although some of them are just edits, but no more simple formatting. So take it away, Joe.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Tara. So page 1, we get to Article 1, Section 1, the authority. Cindy made a recommendation regarding how we refer to the statute throughout the document. Anyone have any strong comments about this?
I had to put my voice on because my dog's barking. So, yeah, I just feel that the average person, if you're just going to quote a statute and not the chapter, the average person is really not going to know what it is. So with the zoning, in the beginning, you identify that the zoning is chapter 124, but then you have the municipal zoning, which is the subdivision part, and that's 126. And then you have make reference to inland wetlands, and then there's some reference like the liquor bill, the liquor.
Cindy, you're on a different comment.
Yeah,
What?
not the right one.
You're on a different comment.
Which one are you on?
This is just,
the very first one. This is just where you recommend we abbreviate Connecticut general statutes to CGS throughout. There's really no action necessary here.
yeah.
I'm just acknowledging it.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I mean, we're literally going in order in this discussion guide. So,
Right.
yeah, and I totally concur with that. Just for a little background, the only reason it's spelled out throughout is because Marla had asked me to do that. So this is like, that Aesop's fable of the guy who was walking along with the donkey and everybody says, why are you walking? And in the end, nobody can carry anything. So I concur that the abbreviation is better. You guys don't need to do a thing here. It's just an acknowledgement that we received comments and an action is being taken.
Okay.
Okay.
Same thing on the next
What's
one.
the next one?
really.
Yeah, we'll be using the Department of Public Health instead of the Department of Health.
Yeah.
So now we're on page 3, Article 2, Section 8, Enforcement.
I'm going to unmute Bernie here.
Yeah, great, thank you. Mr. Davis mentioned that the enforcement section as written does not spell out the legal right to require removal. Tira has recommended adding a subsection E, which would read, the commission, in addition to other remedies, may institute legal action to prevent, correct, or abate any condition and fines to violate these regulations, up to and including requiring the removal of any structure found to be illegally built. Certainly at this time, if any of the commission has any thoughts on that or would like to ask Mr. Davis for clarification, the comment seems pretty straightforward and the remedy to me seems to be there. Certainly if anyone has
Seems fine to me.
Yeah, that satisfies your concerns, Bernie?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
great. Any opposition from any commissioners?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I will move on.
Okay, I'm going to mute
Question.
Bernie again, but he's, oh, is that you, Bernie?
I'm here, but no, that wasn't me.
Oh, that was me.
Bob, yes,
Joe, Bob Werge.
yes.
Who's Harry Heller? He's sitting here quietly looking at us and,
He's a member of the
What
public,
about him?
Bob.
huh?
Yep, just someone here who's listening to the meeting to learn more about the regulations.
Who's an interested citizen.
Yep,
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Harry.
thanks.
Hi,
Nice to meet you.
I am the attorney. I don't know if I'm muted or not, but I'm the attorney for Rawson Materials.
Ah,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
Mr.
okay, so you and Madeline are here representing Rawson?
Yes.
Okay, for the moment, I'm going to mute you again, Harry, but thank you for letting us know what your interest is.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harry. So page 4, Article 2, Section 8, Enforcement. This is Section A. Cindy has made a suggestion to make it clearer about how the ZEO has his or her authority from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Again, there's a seemingly a straightforward resolution to that comment. Any questions or concerns from the commission? Yeah, Carolyn.
The only thing that came to my mind is in the event that the commission is without a ZEO for whatever reason, the commission needs to be able to take over that responsibility either by appointing one of the members or the commission as a whole or a sub, or somehow you want to be able to still do your enforcement if you're without a ZEO or if you're between them or for whatever reason. So I think that the language should provide for that as well, because here it's saying these regulations shall be interpreted and enforced by the appointed agent of the commission, zoning enforcement officer. So maybe it should say by the zoning enforcement officer or any other appointed agent
Yeah,
of
or,
the
yeah,
commission,
I think
or commission members, or, whatever, to cover the bases, in other words.
that's a great point, Carolyn.
I think Attorney Roberts sent some suggested language that, let me think here, I think it was maybe for the town of Canterbury that Attorney Slater had corrected for them.
Yeah,
And
I'll look back through my
I think
back
it's worth
emails
taking
from,
a look and
from Rich.
possibly using, taking a little bit out of that in order to cover that base.
right. What does it look like if it's by the commission or its appointed agent?
Joseph, if I may, the comment that the legalese said ambiguity as to the enforcing authority can be very problematic. I would suggest having the regulations interpreted and enforced by the ZEO, who is duly appointed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I had made that signed comment to Tara when I turned in all my concerns. I said exactly what Carolyn's saying. What happens when we don't have a ZEO?
I remember that, John, and I'm reaching a little bit here because I would have to go back and look at my back emails, but either in in-person conversation or in email, I think that as the commission, anybody whom you appoint in that moment becomes the de facto ZEO. Right, they're acting on your behalf as your appointed agent. I have to go back and look. I also remember that there was an exchange about this. And my initial feeling is that the language was adjusted in the proposed draft after that conversation. But if it's still indistinct, then obviously it needs more work. So I guess the item here is I just need to go back and clarify with Rich. I don't think there's anything for you guys to do here.
Okay.
Great. Is that amenable to the commission?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
Our
Yes.
next is page 4, again, Article 2, Section 8, Enforcement, subsection B4. As it reads now, it says any such notice of pending permit revocation shall include the reason or reasons for the pending revocation and the date, time, and place of a hearing before the commission to provide the permittee an opportunity to explain the activity or situation and show why the permit should not be revoked. Cindy raised the comment that it doesn't necessarily follow logically in her mind. Or that it's also, yeah, so this one's gonna merit a little bit of a discussion. Cindy, do you wanna jump in on this one?
While I'm reading it, the only thing, what my contribution to it is what I wrote, is that if there's a violation, or if, say, as the ZEO, I'm not sure of a violation, yes, I will go to the commission at their next meeting and discuss it and look for advice on how to handle it. But once it's determined that the violation letter is sent out, I believe by state statutes, we have to put in there that they have 30 days to appeal my decision, and that decision would be appealed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So you guys really don't have anything to do with it, except I just keep you updated on it and what's going on with the violation. But they don't come to you with the final violation letter.
So what are you recommending we do? Does this need to be just reworked between the two of us, Cindy, so that it mirrors the statutory requirements? I'm just, before you answer that, I'm just going to say a lot of this stuff that Cindy commented on, which is procedural, we lifted this stuff pretty closely from the NECOG draft, and I don't think we gave it a lot of scrutiny because we were talking about more of the philosophical issues. I mean, we talked about it some for sure, but I don't think we gave it as thorough a set of discussion as it probably
I got it.
merited. So I guess my question is, do we just want to defer to Cindy, and I will sit down with Cindy on some of these things and say, what is the process? What makes sense?
Okay, so that's the question for the commission. Is that the path forward for us, having Cindy and Tira sort of hammer out some of these questions, specifically this one?
Well, so once they hammer it out, are we going to be looking at it again and seeing if will there be another discussion guide 3 and we can see what you changed? Because I don't want to vote on something that 2 people sat down and hashed it out. And then it's like.
Well, I mean, how we format the discussion of the items is up to the commission. I mean, some of these things aren't going to merit more discussion because we're going to decide them here.
Yeah.
If we're doing substantive rewrites of sections, yeah, it's certainly perfectly reasonable to, tack on another, just always keep in mind, every discussion session we tacks on at least another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the process. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying, it depends on how you feel you want to be involved in some of the language that may be just more procedural and in terms of workflow, and versus being involved in the philosophy and the purpose of the zoning and the changes. That is totally up to you guys.
I just want to be involved. I don't need to know the procedure or anything other than when somebody comes forward and says, that's in the book, and I'm like, I don't remember saying that. I want to make sure that I'm aware, like, I don't need to know you and Cindy having a conversation, but I just want to make sure that when I say yes on this book, that I'm as comfortable as the people in the town are looking at it, and I want to be able to back everything in the book. Not that I would agree with everything in the book, but at least I'll know it's in there. I don't want to be like blindsided. So whatever that looks like, that's what I want.
Okay, I think I understand your question and concern, Charlene. And after the discussion guides that are going to be, that we're going to go over on all the comments previously received, obviously I have to go back into the draft and create a new iteration that incorporates everything that was agreed upon. So, and that would go to you guys before any public hearing, obviously. And remember, we are also planning on that Q&A in between sort of meeting, so that the public can also ask questions on what it means. So there would be,
so
2 or 3 weeks in between the last draft getting written up, edited, however you want to think about it, and the public hearing with the final vote.
Okay, so everything that, like the stuff that we agreed upon and we said yes, 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 that will just be black and white. Now we're talking about page 4. I would like to see page 4 with this yellow highlight, like what we needed to talk about, and then what you changed in there, highlighted a different color, so we'll know what wordage you changed around. I don't need to see you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to feel comfortable knowing that it's everything that we want it to be.
I got you. I have my note here for that now.
Charlene?
Yep.
With what you said, and I absolutely agree with you, you want to make sure it's a book that is workable and the public's comfortable. But in a situation like this, you actually have to really look at the state statutes and see how violations are treated, because you don't want to be bringing yourself up to subject your town to a lawsuit if it's not followed according to state statute.
I want the I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, when it changes, I just want to know that it changed so that I'm aware of it and I can actually see that change. if nothing changes and then something happens and we have to go in front of a judge or whatever, we'll be like, why wasn't that in there? Like, I know that you'll check the state statutes and go, we obviously have to go according to that. I just want to see every change that we made, just so I can say, oh, okay, yep, that's how they did it. Perfect. That makes sense. Move on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Charlene. Excellent. So Tira, John, did you want to say something? John Lanky? No?
No, so far, so good.
Excellent. My apologies. So Tira and Cindy will hammer that out. And the next draft will have that, have the change marked for us.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So we have a similar thing up next.
Yeah, exactly. So we move on to page 4, Article 2, Section 9, amendments. This is again some of Cindy's question about what's an application, what's a petition, who can request a zone change, and what that means.
Well, an individual can request a zone change, such as we had the case with Kelly on Old Davis Road. But when you keep saying petition, 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 what I hear in my mind is several signatures, and that's a petition to change the zone. I think you can do it that way too if you have a group of people, but it's just very confusing. Is this an application and a petition is attached to it of several people? And then what happens if it's just one person? And you guys, can you hear me? Because my dog just.
Yep, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Fine.
My dog just messed my computer up, sorry. So that's where I'm confused, and I really think that this is a legal question too, for the attorneys. Is it always a petition? And then if it's a petition, we do have to design a different application, because right now the zoning application has check marks on it. It has for a site plan, has for gravel operation, has for zone change, home occupation, and you just check what that application's for. So
Yeah.
I think it really needs some legal counsel, and I don't know if any of the experienced members of the members that have been in there for years on the commission can have any input into this. John? Both
Yeah,
Johns?
So certainly, I mean, I guess to me, it's a secondary question as to whether or not some of our paperwork, I mean, not if, how our paperwork will have to change to match the new regulations that we end up adopting. Certainly, right, I mean, I guess council has looked at this a bunch of times. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think getting clarity on it is important.
I mean, it is worth mentioning that council has seen this draft several times, and that was not an item that they flagged, but they're not necessarily looking at it with a ZEO's eyes. So I have a note here for, legal question, and essentially the same thing as the prior item, that, the logic, again, I don't think we scrutinize the logic of the processes in these early articles in the draft, because they weren't our primary focus in terms of why we were approaching the process. And I think Cindy's comments throughout reflect that we kind of skimmed through them more than we went through them in depth. But it is true that council has seen them, and he flagged some stuff, and we made changes accordingly. But again, if this is still an open issue, I would say that this is maybe another me and Cindy. Cindy, I think you and I are going to have to take a day, like a Friday half day, and this is just going to be the thing that we do.
Yeah.
Are you there? Are you there, Cindy? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, my dog hit some kind of button and messed up my screen.
And again, you know, I think, right, this section of the, it does, you know, you know, in accordance with the provisions of section 8.3 of the Connecticut General Statutes, regulations may be amended whether on the initiative of the commission or by petition. I guess my question is, did we get that word petition from the statute? What it sort of sounds like, but I'm
Can you-
happy to
Or
go
just
ahead.
one? Yeah.
Hey,
ahead,
Joseph?
Yeah, John, I think someone else was trying to jump in
All right.
before you, and then I'll go to you. Is
Go
it
ahead, Carolyn.
Carolyn?
Okay, what I was going to say, it sounded to me like Cindy was saying, and also what you just read, Joe, there are two different paths to changing the zoning regulations. So why not make it clear in this section that whether by application or by petition, you know, separate out if there are differences in the way that that's processed. If there is no difference, then whether by application or by petition, this is the process. This is how you're going to do it, or what's needed.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Carolyn. Go ahead, John. Linky?
Mrs. Words pretty much said it, but my feeling on this, or the way I read this, is why can't we just use one of the words? It's either going to make it a straight out application and it covers everything, and eliminate the word petition. This way we don't have all this confusion, like one person's signature and a multiple. So if it's an application, they still have to have, say, X amount of signatures to request it. I'd like to see what Cynthia's thoughts would be on that. Cynthia Dunn.
And processing what you said, I don't know what specifically what the state statute says on changing regulations. I believe an individual or petitions can do it. So I guess Chair and I will have to research the state statutes on that.
So the statute uses the word petition for what?
Right, they do. Yes, I agree. It does. So how are they defining petition? One person or several people? So that's the issue. It's yeah.
Okay, so that will come to us again in a
highlighted edit.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Tira.
You got it.
Excellent. Page 5 now. Article 2, Section 9, amendments. Again,
yeah, I didn't add anything on the end of this, but I think this was just one where it's kind of a concur, and I don't see any problem with this language. We'll just make the edit.
Great. Any concerns or questions from the commission about the edits suggested by Cindy here?
Right to say, because that's their input. That helps us on a lot.
Okay. Hearing none. Move again. Still on the same page. This is now subsection C of that Section 9 amendment regarding petition requirements. This is petitions to amend the zoning regulations. And
just to summarize this, to move it along, the issue in question here is the ordinance number and whether the reference was correct. There was rather a bit of discussion about this when it was dropped in there, and we felt that it was correct, but Cindy has confirmed that it is not, and she has suggested an alternate, which I think is perfectly reasonable, which is just referring to required fees, which solves a lot of problems. And then she's also suggested attaching the fee schedule as an appendix in the back, which she found. And we can adopt that as is, or I don't know, who sets the fees? The commission, or is there somebody else that sets the fees? You must set your own fees.
I don't have an answer to that question. What do you think, Caroline?
Oh, that I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
Well,
we'd have to-
let's assume the fees aren't going to change for the moment, but should you ever wish to, we'll find out who. But I think that the point is to add the appendix and just refer to the required fees.
And in the appendix, you might want to say these fees are subject to change and give the reason why. And as soon as we find out who sets the fees, then we can give the reason why.
Yeah, exactly. They're probably fees from 1972.
Oh my
Well, we
gosh.
do know that the state fees, the state is in control of their own fee because $60 of any of our fees go to the state. So they could raise that fee. So then we would have to raise our fee. So that's one reason why the fees would be changed.
At the risk of drawing out this conversation needlessly, I think we had talked back and forth about including the fee schedule in the regulations themselves, and had sort of decided against it, so that we wouldn't have to then change our regulations anytime a fee changed. Am I recalling that incorrectly?
Nope.
No, I think you're recalling it correctly, Joe, because I think I was still on the commission at that time. I think if it's an appendix, it's just a page that can get swapped out. I mean, you probably have to vote on it, but it's not amending the whole book.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that.
That's probably another question for the attorney too.
Yeah, I'll just double check that. But either it'll be included as an appendix to the document, or it'll be included as a separate page on the website, which may solve the whole problem anyway.
Yeah.
Carolyn has a question.
I was going to say, and you might want to just say, and whatever state fees are applicable, because the state seems to change them randomly.
Right.
Yeah.
You could do that.
As you know, in other words, you've got your fee, and additionally, there's the state fee, rather than rolling them all into one.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Wetlands does, I believe.
Okay.
Great, thank you. On page 7, Article 2, Section 9 amendments, there's a conversation about the number of days. Tira will confirm and edit.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same thing on the next one, just an edit.
Yeah, petitioner or applicant.
No, yeah.
Once that gets resolved. Still on page 7, still in amendments. So here's a little. So the Attorney Roberts has suggested that the language as written is appropriate. So we will leave that. And same on page 8, Article 2, Section 9 amendments. Again, Attorney Roberts suggests the language is appropriate. And then we get to page 8, Article 2, Section 10, non-conforming buildings, uses, and lots, subsection A.
All right, there's a lot in this. I'm unmuting Bernie Davis again.
Bottom half of page 8 for any of you who are in the regulations document as well. So we see the language as written. Marla had suggested the following change to provide that the expansion does not require a waiver of state health codes for a subsequent septic repair caused by insufficient separation distances. And she's explained here a little bit of her reasoning. Mr. Davis raised a question about the inability of some landowners to then build on that lot.
there's kind of a mishmash of more than one comment in here. I believe that Bernie and I resolved this in conversation. Is that right, Bernie? After we went through the whole thing about the R20,
Pretty much. I don't think there's a big issue here anymore.
okay, very good. So the real remaining point here is whether the suggested language went under A2 or A4 in that section. Right now, it's suggested it go to A4, which is for non-conforming uses, as opposed to, must be non-conforming structures or buildings. I've got the book in front of me.
A dwelling located on a lot.
Dwelling.
It's
Yeah.
really no different than any other zoning reg change over the years with regard to, reducing lot sizes or increasing setbacks and maintaining the right to use the land that was approved under the old regulations as a non-conforming use in the future. So it's really no different than an issue than is always there when zoning regs change.
Right, yeah, and I think we had come to that agreement there. So,
Right.
Right, so
yeah, there's still the question as to where the change goes, I think.
yeah, my feeling is I feel like it would make more sense under A2.
Somebody's got a very prompt clock.
That's Lanky. I think it's Mr. Lanky.
That's
You're wrong again. Oh, my clock. I'm going to throw it out the door.
Got company.
Yeah, because we are talking about a structure as opposed to a use, right?
I think so, but there could be a logical point there that I'm missing.
Because even in her explanation, Marla is talking about dwellings, right?
All right, so we'll just move that up to A2, but otherwise adopt the language. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm going to remute Bernie. I think we're good there. All right, moving on.
So then on page 9, again, just some language regarding with just an edit that needs to be made regarding.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Now we're on page 10, Article 3, permits and the application process. Article 3A, Section 1. So Marla's made some comments, and Cindy and Attorney Roberts have weighed in.
It's a jurisdictional issue. So especially given the fact that Rich concurs with Marla and Cindy, that's just a strike. So that's just an informational note there for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Section 2, an application is required in Article 3A, Section 4 shall be submitted. Cindy's point is it is it too involved? Right, Cindy, do you want to?
I don't know, you guys read it. Does it make sense to you guys to reference the prior article or the later article, or just leave the reference out? Is it confusing or is it not? That's the question in front of you. Hello?
I think it can be struck.
Right, you think it
Yeah, I
okay?
think it can be struck.
All right, okay.
I think everything else in that, the beginning of A is a point made, right? So it's like
Okay.
period. So I don't think you need to reference the following section.
I shall make it so.
So I didn't hear what you said, Brian.
I think in everything that's in 3A, section 2 permits in A, where it says as issued by the commission or ZEO, could end with a period and not have to reference the following section. So I feel like it's a statement and it doesn't need
He's
to.
agreeing with you, Cindy.
So I'm agreeing with you, Cindy.
Okay.
So just to be clear, the language would then read, an application shall be submitted to the ZEO for review for the following.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there anyone who strongly feels like as required in Article 3A, Section 4 needs to stay in? Excellent. So we will.
Wait a minute. Where are you at? I guess I'm lost here. What are you referring to right now?
So Cindy, we're on page 10.
Yep.
Article 3A, Section 2.
Right.
Right at the top there, where you had made the note that you didn't think as required in Article 3A, Section 4, those words are necessary. We're sort of at the bottom of the 6th page, heading to the 7th page of the discussion. The good news, Cindy, is the commission agrees with you and we're taking your advice.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
So
We're almost halfway through this, so, we're doing well, guys.
Yeah.
Yep, page 7.
Still in Article 3A. There's just some consistency language that we're going to make sure is consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, the one with site plan, that's nothing you guys need to worry about. The next one is more substantive.
Yeah. So Marla's comment. Is about the ZEO's ability to accept an application, and what it means to be received by the commission.
I think, Joe, that this is another one of these where, Cindy and I are going to have to sit down and figure out what the preferred process is and match the language to it. And whether that preferred process is as it currently exists or not does bear some discussion. Again, my feelings about status quo bias, but in this case, is the status quo that which best serves the function of receiving an application? So there's a couple of different points here. Marla's point is more about date of receipt, and Cindy's is more about that it goes to the building department first. Whereas in this entire section of the draft, the language that we largely received from NECOG, which we mostly carried over, barely references the building department at all. And as we were reading it, we weren't really considering the building department in their place in the process. So again, I think this is an item for me and Cindy to work out the actual logical flow, which does not necessarily have to be what it is. It should be what should be best. But if what it is already is best, then we have to match our language to that flow.
I feel like that.
Cindy?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that, but I also think that you need to involve Dawn in that conversation too, because she's a large
That's fine.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Go ahead, Missy. Did you have a comment?
I know. That sounded like a Doctor Who statement for a minute.
Yeah.
Tara did, the way it was the who and what is. And
I am a Doctor Who fan, so it's not impossible that.
Who's Doctor Who? Just kidding.
I mean,
No, you have to say it, Doctor Who.
Dr. Who?
arguably,
All right.
this will be another highlighted
Yeah, I
section
think
for us
so.
to compare.
Mhm.
I'm doing my best to make you guys' job easy here, guys.
Yeah,
You
no,
do
we
a wonderful
appreciate
job, Terry.
that. Okay, Article 3A, Section 2, Administrative Act. Subsection C, the ZEO may refer the site plan to other town departments as necessary. Cindy's comment is that this is the practice of the building office. Again, is this Tira, Cindy, the three of you, the two of you getting together and figuring out what's best?
Yeah, I think so. Unless, Cindy, you have strong feelings about how we can change this right now that I can
No, I
just add
don't.
into my draft.
No,
Okay.
no,
All right.
I like the three of us sitting down, Donna, you and I.
All right. That's a plan. I have it so noted.
Excellent, thank you.
All right. Next one is an easy peasy.
Yeah, so this is subsection D, right near the bottom of page 10 of the draft. Yeah, so we're just going to wait to hear what the attorney says on this. It's some question about authority and yeah, our boundaries, right?
Yep. Noted here.
And
Look, how can we say that all comments from other departments shall be submitted to the CEO within 25 days? Where do you get off telling what other departments what they have to do? I don't get that. The wording.
Oh, yeah, that's the prior comment, Bob. We're gonna work that out with. Oh, you're making a separate point, though.
Yes,
Let me go back to it.
Well, that's,
it says all comments from other departments shall be submitted to the CEO within 25 days. How can you dictate to other departments when and what they should do? That's my question.
can I jump in on this one?
yeah,
See, that's the issue where I'm having trouble with too, because basically the building office does that. Her cover sheet has the Northeast District Department of Health, has the ZEO approval, has the inner wetlands approval. I think there's a section for conservation, if that applies to that particular building permit they're looking for. And there might be one or two others, I have no idea. So that's actually the building office who parcels that out to the other departments and saying, here's this application, and here's your involvement in it, and I need your approval. If they don't need that approval, then it doesn't go there. So basically, Donna takes care of that part when she gets the building permit as to who it goes to for approval. The area where it gets difficult is when you have the site plan that you guys have to approve according to our regulations, and then of course it comes to me first. And then after you approve it, it goes up to Donna for their building permit. And then we start the process. Yes, I sign off because you guys approved it. So that's something that you have to approve, site plan, special permit. But just an everyday application for a house, for a pool, for a large shed, for a garage, that all really starts in Donna's office. Sometimes they come to me, I give them their setbacks and I tell them, what they have to do, and then they go up to Donna. So I really think that this has to be really coordinated.
Yeah, this is a workflow issue.
Yes, it is. It is a workflow.
It's actually an inter-office sign-off sheet.
Right. Yes, that's what it's. Thank you very much, Caroline.
And it includes other agencies like
Right.
Northeast District.
Right. Now,
Let me ask you guys a hypothetical question. If we get our act together and get online permitting activated where the system communicates with itself, does that obviate some of this? And all we really, we have to establish it because we don't have online permitting right now anyway. But assuming that we are able to at some point in the not too distant future, move to an online permitting platform where the various functions do communicate. I, as an applicant, go in, check off, I want to build a house, and then it creates the workflow for me. I think a lot of this will be ultimately rendered, not exactly moot, because you're always going to get some paper permits here and there. But yeah, I mean, instead of an inter-office sign-off sheet that could get lost, misplaced, whatever, I think that obviates some of this difficulty.
And Donna's sheets never get lost.
Well,
my question still
in
hasn't
theory,
been-
one could.
Right.
my question still hasn't been answered. How do we dictate to another department a
Well,
time limit?
They're gonna discuss that because there's already a workflow.
I know that there's a workflow, but I don't think we can tell other departments when and what they should do with the time. Doesn't,
Yes,
So you just want to strike that day limit regardless.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Does the commission generally agree with that?
I think it's a fair point.
It's fine.
see, one of the things, and I like what you're saying, Tara, about having some kind of a system to guide a person who's applying. Because right now what happens, sometimes they call Donna's office, sometimes they call my office. You know, that's their first step. Sometimes they call Marla for their first step. And then we do lead them into where they go, such as, to give you an example, if someone says, I want to build something here, you know, because of GeoMap, it's just so easy for me to press the wetlands button and say, oh, well, you're going to need to talk to the wetlands too. And I believe Donna does the same thing. So all three of us help, you know, that person. It just depends on who they call first.
Correct.
Right. So that's a workflow inefficiency because we are humans and not computers. So, I mean, this is exactly why online permitting is a recommended best practice. Brian, Brian Santos, how many online permits versus in-person permits does your firm have to pull anywhere? Are you pulling paper permits anywhere?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
They're all online.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
So
you
that's
should meet with us
that's
too,
a
Brian.
later discussion.
Okay.
In terms of trying to get that as something that we have as a town resource, online permitting. But I think in relationship to the discussion of the regulations, although we should establish the correct flow and document it for the occasions when we need paper permits, hopefully we won't really have to think about it in the not too distant future, and that process will have a layer of automation.
Yeah, but, you know, probably there still will be some people who want to go to the building office. They're not
Yeah,
gonna go
probably.
online, but that'll probably be a small percentage.
Right. And then sometimes when they do go to the building office, Donna sends them down to me first.
Yes.
Or vice versa.
Which is fine.
Okay, so we already talked about page 10, Article 3A, Section 2, because that's me getting back in touch with Attorney Roberts. So moving on from there, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we're at 3A, Section 3 at the bottom of page 10. This is the pre-application meeting. Again, Cindy's questioning the procedure, the practice. You know, how does this all flow for an applicant?
Some of this does get to intent as well. This isn't just between this comment and the next couple, I think. As I was reading Cindy's comments, I was finding it that there is an intent as to why we want these pre-application meetings, and that is why it is described here in a way that it is not in the previous. At least I don't think it is in the current draft. So I guess you guys have to decide what I think you should be discussing here. Why I recommended it for a discussion point is what is the purpose of the pre-application meeting, And at what point do you want that to come in? Do you want that to come at a meeting? Do you want that to come just with Cindy? What is it that you think best serves the interest of both the commission and the applicant in terms of getting their ducks in a row before they start their process?
Well, wasn't it?
Okay, so yeah, thanks, Terry. I think that's a good point. And I think as we're having this conversation, it's helpful for us to think about times that has happened under the current regulations. And I think, Charlene, maybe what you were just about to say.
Yeah, just I think that the pre-meeting would be to be excited that someone's actually coming into the town hall to choose us to build or to start a business or whatever, and then help them so it's not stressful and they're not upstairs, downstairs, on the phone, in the wetlands, like if we know what we're doing, then it just makes it very smooth for the people coming in. If we look like we don't know what we're doing, they're not going to be they don't know what they're doing. So they're going to depend on us to know what we're doing. And if it means having a day where that whole office does a workflow thing, like, hi, my name's Charlene, I'd like to buy the mill and start a business, then you take me around. So when I walk out of there, I feel like, wow, that was great. Everybody helped me. I got all the information I needed. And that's what I think that would have helped me and Frank when we were purchasing the mill, because we were it was a mess.
Yeah. But I'm thinking too, I think we had the developers of the Mason House come in before as a pre-application meeting. Years ago, we had that sort of preliminary conversation about the Independent Living Center, and it offers applicants a chance to sort of gauge the feasibility of what they're planning.
And then it helps them prepare.
Yeah, and it helps them prepare if they are going to go forward. Yeah, for sure.
Now, is it possible, or is there a packet that we can hand out to somebody and have like the steps that it starts with? Like, if you're doing this, you start here, here, and here. Like Cindy said, sometimes I send them to Donna, or vice versa, Donna sends them to me. Is there a way to have a pre-existing sheet of paper that says, go ahead, Tara?
That wasn't me. That was somebody else.
Yeah, I think that's what Tara was talking about earlier, is
Okay.
develop some kind of system. So it's an ABCD system, start here. And that's what we would be looking to do in our talking. Right, Tara?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's a couple things here. I think one is the pre-application meeting with staff, right? And that's more of the workflow. But then, as Joe was saying, we have had a few applicants come in for an informal discussion with the commission about something that is maybe non-standard, like the guy with the little cabins that he had in his the little tree houses, right? So these are things that aren't explicitly described in our regulations. And we advise those people to come before the commission to describe it, so we could say, we think you should approach it in this way. And that sort of lubricates the process, particularly when it's something innovative or potentially controversial, or any number of things that don't fall neatly into a box. So I think there's two pre-applications here. One is a staff meeting and one is a commission consideration.
And I think that's what my question was.
Wouldn't the staff be required, or wouldn't the staff refer to the commission if they feel that it's required? If it's not required, there wouldn't be a need.
Well, we would. The staff would.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's how we work it now, right?
Right. Sometimes we come to you with issues, yeah.
Yeah.
My feeling is that it's helpful to have this language in the regulations that suggests to applicants that
It's almost like a did you know you could.
Yeah, yeah.
People
Thank you, Missy. Yeah,
know,
yeah.
right? Maybe that could be at the beginning instead of the end. Just saying. You know what I mean? Like there's certain
Well, they,
area. Go
yeah,
ahead.
they'd feel like welcomes, like that they can come and say, so I was thinking about building an ant farm and I was gonna have 80
It's one-sided. What about uncles?
I'm just saying, and then, and we're gonna have elephants and we can be like, okay, wait a second.
Yeah.
We can
Some
do the
people-
ant farm.
Some people don't even know that they could come before the commission. Like they might feel like this is stupid. I just got to file for an application or file for this. And then come to find out they should have asked us first
Mhm.
or came before
So-
us.
Right.
So here's a question. Is the way we tighten this up just to describe the staff pre-application meeting in whatever process Cindy and Donna and I decide is appropriate, but then B, include a provision that says the ZEO may recommend an applicant also seek an audience, so that we're clarifying that that could be
Yes.
a thing that the ZEO recommends.
Right.
Does that sound like it hits your intent?
Sounds kosher to me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yep.
All right.
Right.
I have my chicken scratch here. I got it. Moving on.
And does that conversation cover the next two comments as well?
Definitely the very next one. Let me see.
And then, yeah,
Well, I had a note here, and John, hold on, let me read this more carefully. Applications for all zoning. So Cindy's comment is back to workflow. Marla's is about the fees, and I think that Rich
I'm
covers
sorry,
that.
Tara, I thought I saw, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, there were three comments about the pre-application meeting, and I think that covers all of them. And now we're on page 11, application requirements. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I think the all three pre-application requirements comments we just sort of addressed, and now we're on to this new one.
Right. I do have a note here from John about wanting to discuss this section, and I will tell you, full disclosure here, John's comments came before I wrote the final presentation draft, but after you guys had submitted all your comments, and he didn't submit any additional. So I had scribbled in my margins that John had something he wanted to discuss here, but his notes weren't any more specific than that. So John, I don't know what you wanted to discuss here. Do you remember?
Which John are you talking to?
That's you,
John Rice.
I don't know where you're at now, so.
Yeah, so for everyone, we're on page 11, Article 3A, Section 4, Application Requirements. This is about page 9 of the discussion guide. It's page 11 of the draft.
Yeah, unfortunately, John, the only note I had from you was that you had flagged this section and written the word discuss. So I don't know, I don't know what it means here.
Page 11, I'll discuss entire section. It's Article 3A, Section 1.
Section 4, yeah.
Section 4. I mean, if nothing is standing out to you, we can just move on with it to the next. And if it comes to you, elsewhere in the section, we can go back to it. Your mic's on the whole time.
I
So
didn't make any notes on it, no.
okay.
Tira's note here to us is that we should discuss the intent and details of the section.
I think that was based on that handwritten note from John, since I didn't know where he was going with that. I think that's why I included that. So we can move on, and if it comes back, if it comes to him, we'll go back to that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so in that note, there's just some language about fees that's going to be cleaned up. The next one is an or and language. Then we get
That's
to
just
zoning
edits. Yeah.
permit simple. So this is the third note about page 11, Article 3, Section 4, application requirements. Zoning permit simple, ZEO review and approval.
So Cindy, do I understand your comment here that you are saying it is unclear what type of application goes to which level?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So the question for the commission is, and I think it's actually a pretty simple fix, because all of those levels of scrutiny are addressed in the individual tables of uses in the districts. So I think it's just a matter of referring to the table, unless you guys think there is a better way to address that here.
Yeah, I mean, is it as simple as a language that says see this, see the specific.
Yeah, I think it is, but that's what I think. So it's what you guys think that matters there. See table of uses in individual districts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so applications for all zoning permits and or special permits, and then in parentheses, see tables in applicable districts and parentheses. Does that make sense?
What do you guys think?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I like that.
That's fine.
Yep.
Okay. All right, that's easy.
Great.
It's done.
Excellent. So now we are again, on page 11, Article 3A, Section 4. This is a question about the site plan. Marla points out that we have a significant departure from our current procedure. And what does that mean for us? So a discussion is appropriate about what our preference, what our...
Do we know whose kids are in the background here?
Hey, mine.
Sounds like a TV.
I'd gone away, Charlene, it was you.
Oh, Charlene just muted herself. She's got it. She's got it.
She's got her phones on, but didn't mute. That's it. Okay, we're good.
Great. So,
okay, where were we again now?
Yeah, so this
we're on, do all site plans need to be signed and sealed by a land surveyor licensed to practice in the state of Connecticut, which is how the proposed language reads. Cindy has suggested an alternate, which I generally agree with. The attorney kind of said, you can go either way. You can require the more strict requirement. I don't think he was advocating for it. I think he was just saying that it's legally defensible. I would generally concur with Cindy's. It's just up to you guys, what level of requirement you want there.
I'm not sure where we are.
You say you're not sure where we are, Caroline? We're on page 11, Article 3A, Section 4, Application Requirements.
Thank you.
A, Zoning Permit Simple, ZEO Review and Approval. Number 15, the site plan shall be signed and sealed by a land surveyor licensed to practice in the state of Connecticut. That was how the original language was drafted. I think that actually might have been Janet Blanchett's. which almost seems unlikely that she would have required that level, but whatever. Marla points out that requiring it be signed and sealed is excessive. And so Cindy's suggestion is to replace that language with the name, address, contact information, and seal and signature of a civil engineer or land surveyor registered in Connecticut and responsible for drawing and representing for the applicant.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and I think that makes perfect sense.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm good
okay,
with that.
all right. I figured you guys would be, but it merited
Hey, just
bringing
saying
it up.
another word.
Kira, are you eliminating license in the state of Connecticut?
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Says registered.
Well, I mean, we've got registered in, but licensed in is fine there.
Yeah, but my comment, if the person's not licensed, he could be barred from surveying because of bad malpractice or doing something else, and he's providing us information that's not correct.
So
So
you just
John-
want to substitute, substitute licensed for registered.
Yeah, he's got to be
Yeah,
registered
that's fine.
in the state of Connecticut. Is that, he's given us the lines and we're accepting these boundary lines, and the guy's not even licensed in the state to do that.
Yeah, that's an easy fix. I agree with that logic.
Yep.
This is for simple.
And if I may, Tara, again, going back to that article, I don't know where it is. I didn't read that whole thing again, but I was saying, why don't we have the applicant? Because I think you're restricting the amount of copies for the members. I think you're only saying 2 or 3 or 4, and then that means that we being Cindy or somebody in the town hall has to make copies for everybody, or Gloria, everybody for the commission to review. So why don't we?
Right. So what we had done, and this is a discussion I do remember quite clearly from the time, was that we were reducing the required number of copies so that we could move to electronic submission, but that we have at least a base requirement of whatever needs to be filed. And if there are commissioners who prefer it on paper, that is a different issue from what we are requiring as a base minimum the applicant to provide. If we are all able to review these things electronically, which, again, is more of a best practice, that we should start to move away from relying on all of this paper. Now, we could up that from 2, to have another couple for that purpose, but I think to require them for the entire, I don't know about everybody else, but when I was a commissioner, my back seat was full of P&Z paperwork that I just threw back there after a meeting and was never, ever going to look at again.
Okay, but how about during the meeting? Everybody going to bring their laptop or an iPad to look at all these things?
Well, no, the conversation included using the
TV.
screen that's in the Cine room. Right, that it also allows, a more visible presentation for anyone who's attending the meeting.
Yeah.
Right, for the audience, for the people to see in the audience and the commission to see the TV.
And additionally, in this format, we could do a screen share, which would make it even more visible. Now, we haven't done that yet because we're still getting used to that, but, utilizing the technology versus the paper is ultimately more efficient. Now, again, we could make a requirement that it's more than 2. We need the 2 file copies in hard copy regardless. But the requirement for the 10 or 11 or however many was, it's just ultimately wasteful.
Have you been at a meeting in the Snay room when that TV hasn't worked?
No, but I believe you that it has happened.
Yeah, it's okay. So if in that case, then we postpone the meeting or that applicant's application because now we can't see it. I just throw that out there. It's okay with me.
Well, I think that
Well,
we've been
I mean,
working.
hypothetically, if that were to happen, you could switch the agenda item to later in the evening, and I, as a staff member, could go and make copies if we were in a physical location. And
Okay.
I mean, there's ways around stuff. It's not, you know.
Okay, just
Can I
add that,
join in on this conversation?
add that to your job description, that's all.
Or
Can I-
Cindy, go ahead.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I
Please
think
do.
I think the purpose of having the hard copies is for those commission members who want the hard copies in front of them prior to the meeting so they can study them and look at them, and then they have knowledge when they go into the meeting as to what they're going to be voting on. I mean, and I also think it's a generational thing. Myself, if I was a commission member, I want a hard copy that I can see before the meeting. I don't want to have to go on my computer. I don't want to have to do any of that. So I think it's a personal preference.
I actually agree with that. I feel the same way, but then my friend Charlene over here, like, she wants no paper to do with anything. I think it's a personal thing. But I do have a question. If we can jump back after, let me know when that time is okay to do that.
Well, is it on this section, Missy? Because we
It is.
you can bring
Yes.
it up. Well, go right ahead.
It's on the, John was saying that we have to have, I guess I'm confused by what, because I know what we were talking about, having the written, all simple zoning permit applications will require a professional engineer to sign seal plans. And then we were gonna change it to, I'm trying to find that spot, to the land surveyor registered. So if it's just a simple plan that Cindy already signs off on, is that okay? Because then I'm thinking about what John said, when John's like, well, you can't have somebody that's not, like, what if they're not really registered, or what if they're not, they had their license revoked? So I think I'm caught up on that a little bit, where, like, I know that I've seen Cindy sign off on people, when people draw it out themselves, and then when they come to the meeting, it's a little bit more accurate of what they need. But to first get it signed, to be able to come to a meeting, is this what this is talking about right there? The subsection is written all simple zoning for an application. There's the word. Did I not make sense?
No, you made sense. I think Cindy's better positioned to answer that than I am, actually.
Okay.
Sorry, time's up. Hear the bell?
I did. I did.
We're doing well, though, guys. We're doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Says
with whatever you decide to do.
It
Cindy,
says the
Cindy, did you hear the
problem
question?
Well, if you want to repeat the question, sure.
Yeah, let me do it again. It said that the problem occurs when the simple zoning permit is required to meet the surveying standards found in listed item number 14 and suggested in listed number 13. So it sounds to me like the way Marla Butts is saying it, that it shouldn't need to have a professional engineer to sign and seal plans that are for a simple zoning permit application.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, and then John said, but wait a minute, you can't just have somebody, what if their license was revoked and you don't know that and they're submitting them? But I thought this was just, I guess I read a little bit further down that said that some people come in drawing their own. And then if there's gonna be more to happen after the application, they have more of a professional drawing that is with a registered person or a civil engineer or any of that. So I don't think I knew what I think we left it where Cindy can sign off on anything, but yet when they come in for the actual meeting, it has to be a little bit more if it's required.
Well, you're not signing off. If something has to be approved by the P&Z, you're not signing off on anything. You're advising them what they need for the meeting to get that application approved.
Sure.
But if it's just a simple permit for a pool, a deck on a pool, or a garage, that's pretty much, yeah, if you have a drawing and a lot of people look up their site plans from when it was originally built, and they draw it onto that site plan, and as long as they're within their septic distance, and as long as they're within their setbacks, then it's fine. We sign off on it.
Right, and so I guess like to follow off of Missy's point, right? That's exact. I guess, right. So a home occupation would require a simple zoning permit, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Now, so are we saying that a home occupation requires a site plan signed and sealed by?
No.
Or not?
No.
So
It
we
says-
should probably just purge that number 15.
It says the problem occurs when simple zoning permit is required to meet surveying standards.
Right. Exactly.
That's what I'm questioning.
That's more onerous than we wanted it to be. I think.
Okay.
Is Missy's point, right?
I think what we should look at is common sense.
Yes.
Take
When
it
a site
away.
plan by a registered or licensed engineer is required, I think
Right.
Cindy could look at what the applications involve.
Right.
And if it's not required, move on.
But if it's in right, but that's exactly the issue, right? If
What are you going to require?
right, site plans shall show the following. So for a zoning permit, we're saying a site plan shall show all of these things, which is much more burdensome for someone requesting a home occupation than we've ever been.
Right.
So perhaps we don't need 15 under zoning permit simple at all. Maybe that goes into site plan approval from the commission. It just gets moved down to the higher category of scrutiny.
Okay.
If it's required.
Cindy, you and I can look at that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is one that you and I can solve.
Well, just one more comment on it. If the regulations are tough and the CEO says, no, you don't have to do that, and their neighbor is very upset because they're doing something, and they say, well, the regulations say this, so, and you
Right.
didn't do that. So
Right, that's what I'm saying. If
you have to
it's,
get it real clear.
if it's in our regulations that they shall provide it, and we're telling them, oh, you don't need to provide that, then
Yeah.
that's
Right.
that's a huge problem for us.
So maybe
All
we
right,
need to,
Cindy, that's something you and I can solve. Just
Okay.
looking at it logically together, I think.
Okay.
okay. Agree.
And then I think about the number required for what Mr. Rice was talking about. This is Charlene. Keep it at the 2 or up it to 4, but then we did go around asking everybody if they wanted it electronically, which I get mine electronically now. And I do like the hard copies for like the big maps, because when you do look at it in email, but those are always available to us at night. So I feel like if Mr. Rice needs or wants the 4 pages for, whatever what they need them for, but then to try to save paper and move ahead electronically, then let's try to do that.
I just want to point out, because I just looked at the draft itself, that this is how the full item reads.
Mhm.
At a minimum, a PDF file and 2 copies of all required documents for each application needing approval shall be submitted, accompanied by the same number of copies of a site plan on 11 by 17 inch paper. The ZEO or the commission, as applicable, may require additional copies. So we've already included the possibility that as the commission members change, and some people prefer paper and some people prefer electronic. Yeah, so the safety valve language is already in there for more
Yeah,
copies.
I agree. And further, if you had read one more sentence, Tira, you would have seen that the language that we were talking about earlier is also a delineation of which level of approval is required for an application can be found in the table of uses for each district.
Oh, look at that. It's already in there.
Well,
I
we
thought
got
it was silly that I would have left that out.
Mr. Rice, does
Look
that
at that.
language satisfy you?
Yes, but my question is, if you're reading this, it says that the ZEO, if not necessary for, the commission may require additional copies. When do we require additional copies at the meeting? We tell the applicant, hey, we want some more copies? When do you do that?
So you want that
Well,
clarified?
Or leave it to Cindy? I don't know, but it just doesn't make sense to me, is that you're saying the commission may require additional comments or copies. When does the commission do that?
It'd be up to Cindy to.
Well, according to Charlene, when it's a big map. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying about clarity, but I think since we've already established that there should be a pre-application meeting, and that pre-application meeting includes the ZEO will know how many commissioners on any given commission want paper, right? And as long as John Rice and whomever else, Bob, whomever else, prefers to have the paper in hand are on the commission, that is a fixed number of persons whose preferences are not likely to change. So, the applicant has to provide a minimum of 2. If they're bringing it before this board, they also need an additional 4. If they're bringing it before a commission seated 2 years from now, which may have changed and people's preferences may have changed, the ZEO says, prepare this many copies. I mean, I think it's okay to spell that out, but I think I think it might be, more than is really necessary, but I can probably find a way to clarify that in the language. That the ZEO may require, may inform the applicant that additional copies will be needed for commission members or something. But I think that's solvable. If that's the contention.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that works for me as well.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
perhaps up to, using the words up to so many numbers, copies.
Well, it would be up to 13. I mean, but, we're never going to require that.
Well, we used
But
to
we have,
require
10
15.
members and 3 alternates.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's language that makes sense as we've got it.
Okay, I think I got it. It'll be in your highlighted next iteration.
Merci. So the next comment moves us down to the next level, the zoning permit with site plan review by commission. Cindy had suggested some changes that are all appropriate
What page, yeah.
and will be made. I'm sorry, what was that, Bob?
Okay, I got it.
All set?
Yeah, he's good.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So some changes there that will be, that are all appropriate. For this same section, the site plan review by commission, item 13 is the location of all water courses and inland wetlands delineated by a qualified soil scientist as defined in section 22A-39 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Cindy has added
The language change is easy. We got that. It's the question is the one from Charlie Ober.
Thinks that should move up to the simple zoning permit as well.
Oh.
What do you guys feel about that?
I just keep.
I mean, I know what I feel about it.
I just keep going back to the idea of a home occupation, right? Which falls under that zoning permit simple. And what we expect of a zoning a home occupation now. And now maybe I'm wrong to think of that. Maybe the home occupation is like the least intensive use even within the simple zoning permit level, and maybe I should be thinking of something else, but that's the example I keep coming back to. And
Carolyn, what do you feel about that? Do you, as the sort of
Well-
the one who might have the closest relationship to this particular, I mean, obviously it's wetlands, not conservation, but
Right,
it's,
but this does say zoning permit with site plan review. So you wouldn't have a site plan review for a home occupation, would you?
Right, but what Charlie Obert is suggesting is that that item be moved to the section we had just covered earlier.
Oh, for a simple permit?
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that,
It's a little
I
bit-
think it's onerous and except, I mean, I don't know everything that, I don't know what the parameters are for a simple permit, but certainly you could say if necessary, you know, it's other things could be required if they are necessary,
For the
determined to be necessary.
ZEO.
So yeah, so here's the, I am sort of, I guess, maybe backtracking a little bit. So right now I'm looking at the rural residential agricultural district.
Yes.
And the things that fall under a simple zoning permit are single family dwellings, agricultural, home occupations, farm stands, and that's it. So, right, a single family dwelling is much different than a home occupation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, you know, a single family dwelling, I do believe that, that if someone comes in with an application to the building department, the wetlands agent looks it over and she has to make a determination. Do they need any wetland review? You know, will they need to have a wetland delineation done and so forth?
Thank you.
So maybe here's the solution. Maybe it could be moved up to simple permit, but under the article for home occupations, for example, a specific exception is carved out that this item from article blah, 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 is not required for a home occupation, because that seems to be the sticking point.
Yeah.
Or any other things where we decide right now or in these coming discussions, do not require this particular item.
Well, here's the thing. Why would you require wetlands delineation if the Wetlands Commission would be responsible for that? If someone is going to go to the building department to do a farm stand, let's say, or a single family dwelling, the interagency sign-off sheet would go around and, you know, wetlands would determine whether they need to have a wetland delineation done.
That's the way it's right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're trying to figure out whether you want Charlie's comment added?
It is a comment that was received, and like all comments received, it's being put out here for your consideration. It's not something that we discussed previously in this context. So in as far as that's the case, it deserves some discussion now. I also believe it's probably onerous for a simple permit. I also understand that Charlie Obert is coming at this as a person who's on the Inland Wetlands Commission and is specifically interested in that as an issue. So there's a perspective here, and he's not on the, I'm checking the participants, he's not on the call. So, but I tend to think it's probably onerous. I also tend to think, going back to my original point, if we can modernize our process and get online permitting, this renders this item moot.
Yeah,
it gets
but
flagged in the process.
yes, and at the same time, it is under the wetland jurisdiction.
It's not ours.
So maybe you shouldn't worry about it.
Correct.
And there's a big difference between a house and a fruit stand building. A house is going to come in with, generally comes in with a nice, site of plan permit by an engineer. Whereas a shed for a fruit stand is not. And the only thing you have to, and that's why Marla does have to sign off on it, to check the wetlands.
Right.
But to have it in there and require it, I mean, I don't see, I see it more work.
I agree
Yeah,
with
okay.
it's under our purview. it's not our purview to decide if a wetlands review is required. On the checked off list, when someone puts it in, it goes by Cindy's face anyway, Marla's face anyway.
I think I'm
The
hearing
wetlands
pretty
review-
strong consensus that we do not want to add this to simple permit and
No.
let the existing
I
workflow
don't
take
think
care
so.
of it. Does that sound right, everybody?
It
Yes.
does to me.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so
Let's blast through the ones that say no commission action required so we can try to get it, because, you know, it's 8:45 and we do want to get through all of this. Let's just blast through anything that doesn't require actual discussion here.
So our next one is page 13, Article 3A, Section 5 exemptions.
I don't know why sheds are so confusing, but apparently sheds are very confusing.
On what Bernie said, requiring a zoning permit for shed is unnecessary burden on the property owner. I disagree with that, because what could happen is an unnecessary burden on their neighbor if they don't do their correct setbacks. You need to have the permit for the shed to make sure they're within their setbacks.
So with having a permit for the shed,
Under 200 square feet.
oh, under.
Well,
So it,
yeah, for any shed, anything, regardless of regardless. You have to, the 5-foot setback is for anything under 200 square feet. If you go over 200 square feet, then you have to go with the regular setback. But you have to make sure that they're within that 5-foot.
so you
Is that
go, are you,
applicable in all zones? The 5 feet?
Yeah, that's the way it is. Well, it's 6 feet now. If it's 6 feet if it's under 140 square feet. We're increasing it to 200 square feet to make it more accommodating to the homeowner, but it still has to have the setback, and that's why you're requiring a permit to make sure that they're within their setback, because then all the office is going to get is complaints that he put his shed right on my property line.
is it a she shed or a he shed?
Well, now, my question, Cindy, though, is a setback 5 feet in all zones?
It would be 5
feet.
feet in all zones, such it is now 6 feet in all zones if you go under
Okay, so it's in all
140 square
zones, that's
feet.
my question. All right,
What did you ask me, Bob?
pardon me?
Did you ask me something?
No, I was trying to ascertain if the 5-foot setback is in all zones.
Yes, all zones for
All I wanted.
200 square feet and under.
So is he saying that he doesn't, what is the reason that he doesn't want to require a permit? Is because there's a fee that goes along with it and he's trying not to pay the fee or think about the people,
he's here.
or?
Isn't he
Bernie,
here?
you're unmuted. Yeah, you're unmuted,
Yeah,
Bernie,
I'm
if you would care
unmuted,
to
yes.
comment.
Bernie?
Where does the 200-foot maximum for no building permit come from? Is that from the state?
No, Bernie. Presently, it's 140 square feet.
No, but the 200 limit, is that by state guideline? The
No, I'm
towns can
trying
go
to
up
explain
200
it to you. I'm trying to explain it to you. We indiscriminately changed that to 200 square feet to make it easier for the homeowner to do a less of a setback. The setback presently now is 6 feet for 140 square foot shed. If you go over 140 square foot, if you're set back from the side and the back is 25 feet now, you have to do the 25 feet.
Yes, but that's zoning, Cindy, correct? I'm talking building permit. In terms of the building permit.
Oh, the building, I don't know. I don't
See,
know.
I'm under the impression that comes from the state. Now, and I'm under the impression that it is set that way to make it easy and avoid the red tape for someone just to put up a small shed. No building permit required.
Right.
The moment you require a zoning permit, you're throwing that out the window. It doesn't matter. You're making it complicated, complex, whether it be cost or paperwork or the process itself for people to put up a shed. And quite frankly, if they do ignore the 5 foot setback, the town has the authority to tell them to move it. And it's just a shed. It's not hard to move as a general rule.
Okay, but Bernie, even if they come in and they go see Don and said, my shed is 180 square feet. Oh, you don't need a building permit, but you
Correct.
go see Cindy, you need a zoning permit. You need that zoning permit now. And the reason, my reasoning, or I think the reasoning is so that they don't encroach on the abutter's property.
Yeah, I understand that, but there's nothing to keep people from doing it anyway because there's no building permit required. Sheds are back of properties where they don't typically show. It's an easy thing for people just to do, and 5 foot is such a small distance anyway. I just don't see a need.
Okay, the only thing
for
I
the
can tell you,
complication
Bernie,
of
is to spend a day in my office with the phone calls. That's the only thing I can tell you. If I don't know
I
that
think-
shed's being built and it's on somebody's property line, then you need the staff to be able to go out and enforce that. And
Right.
in earlier, it says that the commission has the authority to tell somebody to take a building down. Wherever that was, whatever.
That's not gonna
Yeah,
work.
but 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to have to go to court to do it all.
That was
Right,
really-
Well,
right.
We had a
Yeah,
case
so
like that.
this is
We
this
had
is
a
the
case
thing that
on
I think
Line Mer-
Bernie is kind of saying.
What was that?
Not 9 times.
This is part of what I think Bernie is kind of saying. He's making the point, and I pretty much agree with him, that the only people that you're going to capture here are the people who are already conscious enough that they need to come apply for a permit to put up a shed, as opposed to go buying it from Home Depot and plopping it on their property. So you're going to capture those people who are that level of responsible, and the complaints are only going to come from the people who are living next to those who are inclined to complain. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people who are,
Okay.
I think that the point Bernie's trying to make, I think, is that you're going to reduce your compliance by increasing the requirement. I tend to agree with that.
We're not increasing we're giving them more. We're giving them more square footage for a shed than we have now, and it's the same premise. We changed.
But the building permits, the building department allows 200 square feet.
I give
Without
up.
a permit.
If you don't require a zoning permit for a shed, then you're going to have double the complaints you have now. That's all I'm telling you.
I don't disagree with that. I don't argue with you. I just feel.
And you
that
don't have
if-
this. It's a minor issue.
Yeah.
You have more important things to do in the office. So then that person who complains is going to say the town is not doing anything for them. It's a circle.
Right, because then the person who has to pay to get the building permit, to have somebody come out there, we're doing nothing for them either, because we're charging them for everything and their brother.
$60 if it goes to the state. So it's only $40 to go to the town. I make sure they know that.
Cindy, I want to put a 100-foot shed on my property right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to get a zoning permit for that?
Yes, you do.
Yep.
You have to make sure you're 6 feet away from the boundaries.
What if I know I have to be 6 feet away from the boundaries because I came in and asked, and you tell me 6 feet? Now do I have to pay for a permit?
Yes.
So your point.
What about this? What about this? What if there is an exemption from the permit, but we stipulate that there is a setback requirement, meaning if there is a complaint, we are required to investigate it right? Because we have stipulated that that this is how you have to do this thing. And then the only time it becomes an issue is when there is a complaint because somebody is out of bounds, and it can be demonstrated that they're out of bounds. So you don't necessarily need the permit, because what is the point other than that we have an existing record of it?
But that's why you have the
Not
permit,
taxable.
because you have an existing record of it when you get the complaint.
200-foot shed is not
I
taxable.
don't think so.
Yeah.
No, because there's no building permit record of it existing.
No, it's not.
Right, so what we do, if we don't require, if we hold it as an exemption with the stipulation that there is a setback for such structure, it still gives the public the right, an abutter the right to complain that somebody is infringing on the setback without having to go through the administrative part up front. And we've still got the language there.
That seems
As
like
I said to you before, when the complaint comes in, it's a minor complaint and it goes to the bottom of the list, and then you get people mad at you because you're not out there, yesterday to take care of it. So
But
So that's
all
not
I'm
going to
telling
change no matter what language we have in there.
right,
Right.
right.
No, I understand that, but there are people who come in, they will call Donna and say, I'm building a shed. And then if it's under the 200 square feet, she says, call Cindy, and they call me.
Great.
We do get, so I don't know why would you want to change it? If it's working this way, why would you want to change it?
But Cindy, are you still getting complaints?
I've had one complaint. Yeah, I had two.
Yeah.
So
So the complaints are going to happen either way. So the point is, right, so if they call the building office and they say, I want to build a shed, and the building office says, you know what, it's small enough, you don't need a building permit, but go ahead and call zoning. And you say, you don't need a zoning permit, but you need to know that these are the setbacks. And those are written in our regulations, and here they are. It seems to me like a fair compromise that the expectation is published in our regulations of the setbacks, and the recourse exists without the the upfront paperwork.
People can build 3 feet from the property line instead of 6 feet, whether they have a permit or not, a zoning permit or not. It's not going to stop them from building too close to the property line. If that's what they
Yeah,
want to do.
I think all we have to do is make the statement of what the expectation is. And then,
Agreed.
I disagree.
and then well, it's up to this is one that's up to the commission. Joe, I'm gonna suggest
Yeah, it is.
that you guys
Yeah,
do
we'll
a
take a voice vote on it.
yes, no on this.
Yeah, so the competing ideas we have are that the recourse is in the permit, that the permit brings about the recourse, or just the regulation brings about the recourse. So I would request a voice vote. It is a yes to require a zoning permit for these sheds under 200 square feet. No, not to require. But either way, the setback regulations would be published in the regulations.
I think Carolyn wants to say something.
Yeah, what if you put it in a category where it's a use as of right, but you have to file a use as of right notice.
Guidelines.
And in that, it tells you what your setback must be. That way, you're not having to do a whole permit. It's a matter of kind of just registering the idea with the zoning officer.
And then they're getting the 6 feet setback. They're knowing what they need to do.
Whatever setback you determine.
Yep.
Well, we've determined 5 feet.
Oh, 5.
Yeah, 5 feet. Cindy, what is your thought on that?
No, I'm not backing down. So I guess you have to walk over me.
Okay, just an idea.
Yeah,
Well,
I hear what
if
you're
it-
saying too, Carolyn, but I think you're still, I think it's still creating a layer of administrative function that is probably not required. I mean, I'm just listening to what's being described here, and I think the whole thing could be solved with the first call to the building office where they say, I want to build a 140-foot shed. They say, you don't need a building permit for that. These are your steps. I think, why is that even getting referred to, other than there is, to say the words, there is a zoning requirement that there's a 6-foot setback? Why is there more than one 10-second conversation about this? And
Because
we've
it's not her
documented
job.
our intent.
Because it's not her job to tell them what the zoning regs are, even though she knows it's not her job. You asked Donna that. Go ahead and,
Okay,
you
well,
know.
I mean, that is a fair observation, that it is not her job to say those particular words. But we will have published the words regardless. So she could refer them to talk to you with an extra phone call. She could refer them to look at the zoning regulations. Either way, the stipulation is there. So any other layer of administrative requirement, to me, that just seems like creating extra work. And you've already stated you're still going to get complaints from people anyway. So there's nothing about this that solves or doesn't solve whether you get complaints. Joe, you set it up however you want.
So yeah, so the question before the commission is yes to require a zoning permit for these sheds under 200 square feet. No, not. Either way, the setback requirements would be included in the regulations. Is the question clear to the commission?
And what's the setback, Joe? 5 or 6?
5 feet.
5 feet.
For only 140 square feet or for
Up to
200 square
200
feet?
square feet. Up to 200 square feet.
Up to 200.
Up to 200, okay.
Okay, and if I may for clarification, please.
Yes, Mr. Kroval.
The zoning official still has the authority to have the building moved or taken down.
That's why,
Either-
yes, with the requirements written in our regulations, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I will.
Get out of there, you cat.
Mr. Santos,
No.
Charlene Langlois,
Yes.
Missy DeRozier,
Yes.
John Rice,
No.
John Lenke,
Yes.
Mike Krogel,
Yes.
Bob Werge,
No. Radically no.
and I didn't miss it, Joe Purdy Brown, no.
So that is a tie, which means it defaults to no, right?
Yes.
Yes. Chairman,
Motion for-
whatever the chairman votes is with it.
Okay, no permit. Thank you. Move on.
Okay, moving on. I got it.
Getting close to my night, folks. My naughty
I
blank.
know we're doing our best here. We're doing well.
We're almost
Well, but then your comment is next. Your comment is next, Bob. So it's your moment to shine.
That'll wake them
Oh
up.
my God.
I think
Luckily, I brought my attorney with me. I mean, you.
So this is page 14, Article 3B, Section 1, rendering the decision. I think Tira mentions that Bob had mentioned this in several sections. In this section, I think it just needs to be clarified that the commission in cases, or the ZEO in the case of the simple zoning permit, and the commission in the case of the other two, deny or approve the application. Does that resolve the issue?
Are you asking about my comment, Joe?
Yes,
I'm not
yes.
sure.
Yes, yes.
The Z-
Yeah, well, CEO makes the decision, right? When a CEO makes a decision and that decision is challenged or questioned, challenged, of course, it doesn't go to the commission. We don't decide as a commission, and this infers we do. We do not decide. The CEO, the ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, has two functions. Exception to zoning based on hardship, and there's not money involved. There's no cash involved. It's a monetary, not a monetary. And the second function is challenges of the ZEO decisions. The commission, the commission, can't challenge a ZEO's decision.
Correct.
Thank
The way I read at least section A here, section 1, rendering the decision, section A, right? The commission will make the decision if it's a site plan review or a special permit. The ZEO will make the decision if it's a simple zoning permit.
Okay, Bob, does that,
That's okay.
that pretty much makes
Yeah.
it clear what's what,
Yeah,
who's issuing what,
okay.
who's responsible for what.
Can I just say one thing to Bob?
Yeah.
ZBA has three jobs. They also approve motor vehicle operations because we're a population of under 20,000.
Well, that's something new. That was before my time.
Oh, no, that's always been for your population of under 20,000.
No, that's.
I just want to let you know that, that's all.
Auto thing?
Yeah, yeah,
Kira,
there was an issue. I don't know.
Yes, who's asking?
it's me, Joe. You had mentioned in your notes, you say that Bob highlighted that in several places. Just clarifying that language here, resolve all of those questions? based on
No,
your
what he had sent me a scan of a couple of pages where he had underlined that language, Commissioner ZEO, but this was the comment that was sent to me. So based on the comment, this is the place in the regulations where this comment applies.
Mhm.
I think in other places, the purpose of Commissioner ZEO was more clear.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And that satisfies your question, Bob?
Yes,
Yeah. I think it's-
Okay. I got it.
thank you.
Let's see, next discussion item is 14, page 14, Article 3B, Section 1, rendering the decision still.
Mhm.
And this was Cindy questions. Cindy, you want to go?
Section C.
Okay. Site plan application submitted for review and the conditions are may be modified or denied if it fails to comply with the requirements. So what was my question? Oh,
Is it-
edit.
Well, you've got 3 there.
Wait. Oh, where are we at now? Which part of rendering the decision?
Section C.
I don't know where you're at. I'm sorry. I apologize.
C?
I don't, my pages are not numbered that I
Section-
printed, so.
okay.
I don't
The
know what-
The commission, okay, so the section is this. The commission may, as a condition of approval of any modified special permit application, require a bond in an amount and with conditions satisfactory to it, securing that any modifications of such application are made, or that required amenities, e.g. erosion and sediment control, landscaping, et cetera, are completed. So then what we have for questions here from you, is the bond required only for a modified application? If so, why? And why not for a site permit approval? An additional question, there is no definition for modified application. Do we need one? And a general comment that we need more clarification on the bonding issue.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more clarification. Does it say, I might have missed it, but does it say on just general site plan approvals or special permit approvals with the exception of gravel operations? And I think in the soil and erosion or one of those areas that requires a bond, Do we require bonds anywhere else in the regulations? So my question is the bond just for a modification? Or is a bond for that application? Period.
Well, certainly the language as it's constructed says it is only that a bond may be required for a modified special permit application. I mean, that is the specific language. So, I mean, that's what it says. Is that what you guys want? That's what.
Yeah, I guess that's the question.
Yeah, so
So you answered my question. It's only for modified applications. So the next question would be why?
And so that question is for us, Commission.
Yeah. So why, and why not for a special permit, all special permits? Yeah, I don't know why it's there.
Do you think this is more out of sequence as an item? Is that right?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't think it's out of sequence. I just don't know why we're requesting a bond for a modification. And I may be all wet on this. I don't know. I just like, I just read it and I said, why would we request a bond for a modification?
Mr. Rice?
Yeah, Mr. Rice, maybe you can help us.
Going to bed.
Yeah, wake him up.
No, he's there. I can see him.
You can, huh?
Well, I can see your representation on my screen.
Is that a question for our legal counsel?
I don't think so. I think it's a question of, does this represent what you guys want?
I'm wondering, Tira, is it possible that this is something that we got
Didn't pay any attention to because it came to us from NECOG and we glossed over it?
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what it is.
I mean, I think Cindy's got a good point. I mean, can we just drop the word modified?
We can.
So the commission may, as a condition of approval of any special permit application, require a bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
How's that with Cindy?
What?
You good with that?
Yeah. Yes.
Removing modified is good with you.
Right.
Perhaps
Right.
more important, is that good with the commission?
The commission does not seem to have strong feelings.
You're no strong objections.
We're just, I'm just trying.
I'm rereading it, so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I do have a point with et cetera. What does that mean?
It means that EG is a series of examples, right? So that implies that the list is not exhaustive of that for which a bond might be required.
Yeah, but et
It
cetera
is merely, well, I can remove et cetera. It's, I mean, an EG is not an exhaustive, an IE would be an exhaustive.
ETC period is et cetera, isn't it?
Yeah, he's talking about
There's
the
an
end,
EG at the beginning of
Tara.
the-
Yeah, no, I know what he's saying. I've already struck it.
Thank you.
I'm already moved on.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
The next one is more about date of receipt, and I feel that that was covered previously. So unless you guys want to go back and beat that horse again, I think
Yeah.
I think that is probably okay.
Uh-huh.
Or whatever was okay with the prior will be okay with this.
Yeah.
All right. Turning the page. No
Article-
commission action needed. No commission action needed. Page 16, Article 3C, Section 3, additional application information for special permits. We're going to start to get into some of the, of course, they would have to be near the end, right? The
Yeah.
more complicated things. Yeah, so here we go. The commission may, after the date of receipt of any application, require the applicant to submit additional information if the commission finds that such information is necessary or would be helpful in determining whether the proposed building structure or use conforms to these regulations. Such additional information may include, but is not limited to, the following. So we've got this same Article B and then a couple of different numbers. So under 3, John Rice questions who would verify the location of rock outcroppings, slopes in excess of 25%, soil types delineated by a qualified soil scientist, forested areas on the lot, wetlands, and water courses. Who would verify these items and he recommends deletion. So I have included a comment there that some of these types of soils can be looked up online fairly simply, without requiring anybody to physically go out there and do a survey. So it is probably not onerous to have it as a discretionary item. Maybe you guys feel differently about that. That's how I read that.
Could I just say one thing about soil types?
I would love you to say as much as you like about soil types.
Well, the information that's available would be, I guess, from the Natural Resource Conservation Service, USDA, and it's not accurate under, I think it's 2 acres. It could be greater than 2 acres, but it's not accurate. It's a guide. So for site specific, it would only be a guide. You wouldn't know exactly where the delineation is.
So would it be a reasonable statement to say that, to rewrite that to say for sites over 2 acres, soil types as identified on this database, which we could link
Well,
to?
what are you going to use it for? How close to, an exact location of the boundary of the soil would you need?
Well, I think the question of what it gets used for is the relevant one.
Mm-hmm.
And that did come to, I know that this came down, this is modified from the original NECOG list, which we peeled a lot of stuff out of, and this was one that we left in.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys say, what would you need it for?
What are you regulating? What are you looking for? What purpose will it serve? I mean, if every special
permit.
Yeah, special permit. So this would be, so these would be additional things that the commission might want. Is that?
Might want, depending on the application, yes.
Okay. Well, if they're that important, perhaps the engineer who's preparing the proposal would be able to get more exact information.
I guess my question back to you, Caroline, is you don't see a compelling conservation reason for the commission to ask for this information?
Well,
or do you?
The question.
That's I think the point is that we don't want to leave things.
The question
so that the commission does not have the option to seek information where they think it is relevant on a given special permit application. And it is conceivable to me, based on these items, that there could be a compelling conservation reason to seek that information. But it sounds to me like you're leaning away from that.
Well, I'm not, what I'm trying to do is think, what is your jurisdiction? And how deep do you want to get into the natural resources and for what purpose? So what have you been doing up until now? I mean, what have you been requiring up until now on special permits? Have you been requiring any of these things?
I
I
think
don't
this,
believe we have.
no, I think this language is an extension of what it would be an enlargement of what we would have asked for in the past. I think this may have been responsive to some concerns that have been raised.
Well, my next question would be, what will you do with it once you have the information? I mean, how expert is the commission on determining if this information is accurate, if it's necessary? You know, what are you going to do about it?
So I guess the purpose is for some application, and we may as well use gravel because that's the thing that everybody comes back to. If you identify a sensitive area on a site,
yes,
a condition could be set on the permit to avoid that part of the site. I mean, that would be the purpose that I would posit is served by having this as a discretionary item for the commission.
Yes. Here's what we've done up until now. Usually, if you receive an application where you would like to know more about the natural resources, you make a request to conservation. Conservation has the database for most everything here and can give you feedback on the particular application that you're looking at. We can give you feedback about what natural resources exist there, and we can also make some recommendations as to how to deal with them. In other words, if there is a part of the site that should be avoided, we would make that recommendation. And then it's up to the commission to kind of negotiate with the applicant on that. That's what we've done up until now. We give you a written review.
And do you feel that process or flow is sufficient to meet the needs of the commission?
It has worked pretty well up until, up through the years. It's really up to the commission as to whether they feel like it's sufficient.
But from your perspective, as you see things coming through, and I know that.
Yeah, if the request is made, then we can give the feedback because we're advisory.
So there's no harm in leaving this in.
And we do try to be as scientific as possible, based on the data that we have and citing it. So
the issue is, do we want to leave this in, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Is that the issue? Joe? Somebody?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to leave the room. What section? What part are you on?
We're on special permit, additional information.
Right,
Page
I know.
16 in the draft.
But what specifically which one? Because there's several.
16(3)(c), section 3, B3 right now, but there's a couple similar ones. Yeah.
So if you were receiving a special permit application for a gravel operation, doesn't it usually show you where the forested areas are and where the wetlands are?
Yes.
And it gives you a topo, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I don't see any harm in you saying, additional things could be required.
Yeah, that was more or less the ones that got left after we went through the draft the first time were the ones that there seems to be consensus that people wanted the ability to have the information pulled, and referencing them. I don't know, for the good of the applicant in a way, to make them aware of what could be asked for. I mean, there's nothing stopping an applicant from providing the information up front without being asked if they have a reason to believe it could be asked.
Yeah, I think that to Tira's point, I think we did sort of litigate some of this earlier on. And unless anyone has compelling reasons why we should not ask for this in any circumstance, I would think broadly the May request covers us pretty well.
I agree.
I agree, leave it in.
Okay.
Move on.
Okay. Yeah, I like moving on.
Joe, if you go down to C in that section, if the applicant elects to furnish the additional information required by the commission, is that saying that the applicant has a choice?
That is a great question, John. I don't love that language. It's either required or it's elective. It can't be both.
Well, I think the way that that language was constructed, and I'm not looking at the section right now, it was something like, yeah, you can opt not to provide it, and we can opt to tell you to pound sand.
Right.
I think that's more or less how that's phrased.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's about like requesting an extension for the public hearing.
Yeah. But a lot of these things, analysis of wildlife habitat,
No, that's a, okay.
all that stuff, including any rare or endangered species and the impact of the proposed use on such habitat. You know what that's involved if we ever ask an applicant to do that? The state's gonna get involved. They're gonna say, yeah, there's some kind of a fly that hatches out in the swamps out there.
It's not our purview anyway, John. It's
Well,
not our
it's in
purview
here.
to Wildlife and Habitat.
Well,
We're
it's
zoning
in-
commission.
It's in here to say that the applicant will have to do an analysis. They're gonna have to do we can ask them to do a traffic impact statement.
Sure.
You know, what was the other one? Vegetation types on the lot to be used, including any rare or endangered species. They're gonna say, well, geez, there's a 4-leaf clover sitting over there. We ought to protect that one.
John, I agree with you. I think it's none of our business. That's a
I'm
purview
gonna
of
make a
conservation
suggestion
people.
here.
I know, Joe, I know it says may, but I'm just saying, you know.
No, that should be struck. Take that out.
So I'm going to make a suggestion here. I think we're getting into some of these topics that really merit a thorough conversation. Apologies to Tira. I know you wanted to get through this first guide.
No, I'm looking at the time too, Joe. We can pick it up at this section and into the next one. I'll repeat I'll just copy and paste these couple of pages we didn't get to.
Yeah, and I'll be better about not spending as much time on the commission needs no discussion, you know, to help us move faster in the future as
So
well.
I just have one thing to throw out about this on the wildlife habitats and so forth. If that were challenged, what authority do you base this on?
No.
Yeah,
No.
but that's a great question for us to consider as we head into our next meeting, because I do hear that as a good point.
Mr.
And
Chairman?
so with that,
Hold on, we have somebody from the gallery who would like to make a statement here, and since he is an attorney, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, this is Harry Heller. I'll be very brief. This is actually the topic I've been waiting to discuss with the commission. And I've done extensive research on this issue because it's come up in other towns. And we've issued a lengthy opinion that any consideration of wildlife habitat or threatened, endangered, or species of special concern is beyond the permitting jurisdiction of a zoning commission.
Absolutely.
And I'd be welcome to share that opinion with your staff if you'd like it.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Harry, Madeline, I think, intended to send that to me, but it did not come through as an attachment. So, yeah, please do send that to me.
I will. I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
And I would just like to add that this is one area in which, when recommendations come to you from the Conservation Commission, it is an opportunity to negotiate with the applicant over it, you know, to ask them to give this consideration and to see how they feel about it.
Yeah. Great.
So
Thank
can we set a meeting date for next week before we all hang up? And then
That's exactly what I was going to say. Our next agenda item was to confirm our next meeting of this group.
of course, I didn't bring my book upstairs, but I think that I had Tuesday and Thursday flagged for next week as open also. I'm going to run down with my phone in my hand, grab my book.
The 9th and 11th.
That sounds right to me.
Right?
That's good for me.
The 11th, no, I got
That's right. But we'd be.
The 11th is a special meeting.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to check, Missy. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have,
Oh yeah, that's right. So I'm looking at my book right now. So I actually have the 8th and the 9th and the 10th open in the evening. 8th, 9th, or 10th.
The 8th is the ZBA meeting, guys.
Okay, so 9th or 10th.
9th is good for me.
Is the 9th a selectmen's meeting also?
I was just gonna say, when's the wetlands meeting?
I think it's the 9th, if I'm not
That's
mistaken.
meeting too, Cindy. I think you mentioned like
Yeah.
somebody's got their doorbells ringing. Let them in.
So what are you guys gonna do?
So what did you say was the 10th?
9th or the 10th.
The 9th, the selectmen's meeting wasn't that tonight?
Yes.
So then it won't be next
right,
Tuesday.
they're the 16th.
9th is good for me.
I'll do the 9th.
I'm good with that.
Does it matter that there's a wetlands meeting that night?
Oh, that's what it.
Oh, wetlands was on Tuesday.
Well, it only matters if Marla was planning on dialing in, and
okay.
she didn't dial into this one.
Okay.
Do we want to do this a little earlier, maybe, instead of 7 o'clock
Fine with me.
for everybody?
I'm good with that. Earlier is better.
Early is better.
Yep.
6 or
Is 6
6:30?
too early, or it's
I
6.
think 6 is good. I like 6.
6.
Okay. In that case, we will schedule the next subcommittee meeting for Tuesday the 9th at 6 p.m.
Yep.
And we'll get the Zoom link and the all posted and sent.
Yeah, and what I will do is, so just so you know where I'm at now, I'm going to take what we went over tonight, enter all of the changes we agreed to, highlighted into the existing draft, so it's clear where they are. Cindy and I will sit down. Cindy, let's loosely plan on doing that this Friday so we can get some of it resolved in short order.
Well, we can't, Donna doesn't work on Fridays.
Well, we'll work that. You and I will work that out sometime between now and then to resolve some of those workflow bits. And then I will, after I enter the changes into the draft in the morning tomorrow, in the afternoon tomorrow, I will start the next discussion guide, which will be the pages we didn't get to here today, and at the very least, the districts. I think we actually had relatively few comments on the districts, so I think that'll be a more manageable discussion.
Okay.
All right, sound like a plan?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Tara, would you mind forwarding Attorney Heller's opinion to me when you receive it?
Happy to do so.
Thank you.
I'll forward it to everybody on, involved,
Excellent.
staff and commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it.
Okay, I will take a motion for the final agenda item.
Want a second?
Yes, second,
Second?
Motion made and seconded.
twice.
to Adjourn.
Good work, everyone.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Tara. Bye-bye.
Night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, good night.
I know,
Night.
a poor lawyer sat there through the whole thing.
I know.
Didn't get to